This is MJ. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an analyzer. You can find all my work at mjmunoz.com. Welcome to Fortress Fiction Episode 6, where I'll be talking about The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. According to my synopsis that I got from my AI assistant, it says it's the classic story of a mischievous Tom, the classic story of mischievous Tom growing up in a Mississippi river town. And the book is published, or was published, in 1876. So I want to start with a brief word on The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Basically, I'm going to be asking the question, does Tom Sawyer, or The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, does it have a place of glory in the Fortress fiction? And I'm going to say, despite the fact that I like the book, not really. It's a little bit too bad boy. Like, Tom Sawyer is definitely the bad boy, or a bad boy of literature. And it has its pluses and minuses. It's very entertaining, it's very interesting, but is it, is it wonderful, good, heroic? No, not really. It's a little, it's very real. So it's an honest book, and that does it credit, but it may encourage more vice than it encourages virtue, even though there is some virtue within Tom and Huck and some of the other characters featured here. It's just a kind of an interesting combination of things. I'm not sure I would say, definitely you should be reading this, kids. Actually, I wouldn't say it. So even though it was an entertaining book, but entertainment isn't always the best thing. It's at least not the most important, and that's all I have to say on that matter for now. So I'm going to go ahead and give some information from the wiki about the book and maybe about Twain, I don't remember. So here it goes, and then I'll launch into my own independent free thoughts on the book itself. So The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, also simply known as Tom Sawyer, is an 1876 novel by Mark Twain about a boy, Tom Sawyer, growing up along the Mississippi River. It is set in the 1840s, I wasn't sure about that, in the town of St. Petersburg, which is based on Hannibal, Missouri, where Twain lived as a boy. In the novel, Sawyer has several adventures, often with his friend Huckleberry Finn, but there's at least one other boy who's with them a lot as well. Originally a commercial failure, the book ended up being the best-selling of Twain's works during his lifetime. That's nice. Though overshadowed by its sequel in 1884, which was, let me see when, 1876, 1884, so that's like 8 years later. Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, the book is considered by many to be a masterpiece of American literature. It is alleged by Mark Twain to be one of the first novels to be written on a typewriter, which that's kind of a cool detail. So that's about it. And now I'm just going to go ahead and share with you my thoughts on the book, because I have some. So, like I said, it is a good book. It is very entertaining. It feels very honest. It feels very much like, it feels a little bit autobiographical, which I can understand, as it, is said to be based on Mark Twain's life, and the fact that he's such a witty guy and, makes so many observations about the world and society that are kind of contrarian and would make people comfortable. It makes sense that Tom Sawyer definitely could have been based on him, because he's that kind of kid, and I don't know. It just, he's a trickster. He's a lovable scamp. I thought about Bugs Bunny. I thought about Ferris Bueller from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And there's even a line in the book where, there's a line where it was observed by people in the town that Tom Sawyer might just be president if he escaped being hanged. And I think that's funny, and I think that can apply to a lot of different characters. And I think it's kind of interesting, because it poses the qualities of a great criminal and a great politician as being fairly similar to each other and fairly analogous. And there is something to be said of great men. There is an ability for them to do great evil, and there's an ability for them to do great good. But the point is that what they're doing, the magnitude of what they're doing is great. And that's what makes them great men, not so much the quality of the men, which is, I guess, a little bit of my problem with the book, which is that, like I said, it doesn't really instill virtue. It doesn't really teach virtue. Tom and Huck do some virtuous things, and there's a lot of sweetness and gentleness in the book and in the character. And he's obviously a very flawed character, especially being based on Twain himself. And that has its good qualities and its bad qualities. There's negative effects of that that I don't like, and that I guess I would have liked to be cleaned up in the book, as far as representing the character, or I mean, let me put it this way. I don't mind the book being the way it is. However, I find it insufficient for being something that is both quality entertainment, which it is, or I should say, it's very entertaining in and of itself, but independently of how entertaining the book is. Anyway, my point is that the quality of something and the virtue of it can be independent of each other and mutually exclusive. So you can have something that is very high quality, that is very well done, that is very entertaining, but is not good morally, and you can have something that's very moral and that it is not entertaining at all, which is a large fault, and it's something that I think people should not encourage, and I think it's something that people should not basically allow to pass, because it's important that our stories are high quality, and it's important that they really matter. Both of those things are important, and my preference, and the reason I'm doing this Fortress Fiction project, is so that I can highlight the books that have both the virtue and the quality, that are both very entertaining and also elucidating and edifying, I guess you could say. Edifying is probably a more appropriate word to use in this case. So, yeah, while I had a lot of fun with the book, I, as an adult married man, had a lot of fun with the book, and it reminded me of some things in childhood, other stories that I heard kids telling, or, well, whether they were true things or not, or whether they were things I witnessed or they were just hearsay from other kids, it felt very true. Like, there's all these like arcane incantations that Huck and Tom and the other boys make, and like, if you want to, get rid of like a wart, you gotta, go to a, graveyard at midnight and take a potato, and you hold the potato on there, and you say such, and then you bury it, and like a devil comes out and he takes away half of the wart. Like, it's just like ridiculous stuff that, like, definitely kid lore that kids make up. And I found that very interesting and fascinating, and I also found it fun because I remember hearing so many things from when I was a kid that just weren't true. And there's some stuff going on in there where, like, the kids are playing, and it's not 100% clear to me where the line is between we're just imagining this and we really believe this, which is something magical about childhood. And I see it with my kids, and I remember those sorts of circumstances, those sorts of instances happening where we're playing, but the play is very real. But then again, it's fake. And it's just interesting how humans can do that, and it's especially interesting how children are so adept at doing that. And I think the way I understand things, hold on, son, is that that's a very important thing for people to be able to do, and especially children. It helps them to grow and thrive and prosper in the world, and it's a good thing. And yeah, so am I being a little bit too serious by saying this doesn't really deserve a place in the Fortress Fiction because it's a little too raw, too real, and too, I don't know, inappropriate or edgy? I don't think so, but that's my decision. And if you disagree with that, I'm happy to hear your comments about that, why you disagree, why you think it's okay. And I don't think there's anything wrong with me, again, as an adult, enjoying it, and enjoying it in spite of or in part because of the the young immorality, or the young, like the youthful, ignorant, I don't know, badness or scampishness. Like, those things are okay to me in this fictional character, or even with a real kid to some extent, although you would want those things to be corrected. But Tom's living with his aunt, he's got no mom and no dad, and it makes him a little bit of a different person. Thank you. And Huck's also in a bad situation where his dad's like an alcoholic, and I think his mom's gone. And gosh, I don't know. It's interesting. It really is interesting. As far as the controversial stuff in the book, I thought the Audible, the free version of it that I had in Audible was censored. It wasn't. They went ahead. They used, they talked about slaves. They used Negro, and they also used the larger N-word, which, anyway. Mildred D. Taylor talked about the fact that she won't censor her books and she won't remove the word from her books, and I commend her stance on that. And I don't think Twain's book should be censored to have those things removed, because it's of the times, and it's a encapsulation and evidence of how things were at the time. And where it's used in the book, the boys, it's interesting. Huck is slightly, you got to understand the context of these people. Huck is like, he uses it in more of a derogatory way. Injun Joe definitely uses it in a derogatory way because he was treated as if he was a and that led to him causing that led him doing something in the book that caused a lot of or that was kind of like the inciting incident or the trigger for the story, which was pretty interesting. And definitely we had you've got a Native American who's racist against black, slaves. And I don't know necessarily why the white man who he was so angry at and wanted vengeance against, why he was harsh on him. Maybe that was racism at play too. But it's just interesting because it shows the ugliness of racism, and it shows the broadness of racism, and how even an Indian man or can be racist against black people, and a white guy can be racist against Indians, and just like it's a whole circle of hate and stupidity that we don't need. And I believe Huckleberry Finn features Huck befriending like a runaway slave, which is interesting because then that's taking something that was touched on in this book and contextualizing it. And I'd be curious to see what that relationship is like between Huck and the slave, because he used the N-word in a more derogatory fashion. Although, again, I'm saying for the people of that time, that wouldn't have been a problem, really. That's just how things were. But I think it's important that we have multiple books that we read, and we don't take them away, because they also have important parts of the conversation to add. And yeah, I think it's a good thing. I don't think the book should be controversial. I don't think they should be banned or censored or anything like that, because I like the free flow of information and ideas. Anyway, that's all I have to say. So I like the book for myself. I'm not going to suggest it to my kids because there's some stuff I don't like. Like there's like weird, child romance stuff. But I mean, I proposed to a girl in kindergarten, but I wasn't kissing anybody in kindergarten, and that kind of thing happens in this book. So I don't know. Again, I'm definitely open to have a conversation on this. So if you have something you want to say about the book and its virtues, or my problem with its lack of virtues, or virtue in it, I guess you could say, because I think the book can definitely have virtues without having virtue, or having a failed personal virtue for the characters. So anyway, that's about all I want to say about it. Other notable works from Mark Twain include, but are not limited to, The Gilded Age, A Tale of Today, The Prince and the Pauper. I had no idea he wrote that. It's amazing. A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. I did know about that. The American Claimant. Pudd'nhead Wilson, Personal Recollections of Joan of Arc, A Horse's Tale, Tale, from 1907, and then The Mysterious Stranger, which was published in 1916 posthumously. So that's pretty interesting. The next Fortress fiction will cover The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin from 1978. It's a quirky mystery in which 16 heirs compete to uncover secrets behind Tycoon Sam Westing's death. That is on Audible, and it should be freely available on Cloud Library, and I'll link to other places where it's freely available as well. That's all I have to say. Until next time, farewell, and remember to go ahead and drop your comments on your thoughts about this book or any of the others I've talked about in Fortress Fiction so far. And until next time, keep reading. I hope you enjoyed that. Subscribe to keep up with me. Like and share to help me reach more people like you. And go to mjmunoz.com to find your next favorite thing. And don't forget to let your voice be heard. Stories are always better when you're part of the conversation. Until next time, be well. This is MJ signing out. This has been a Story Over Everything production.